You're about to watch a Trains Newswire video. If you enjoy what you see, consider watching some of our other full-length videos. Hotspots, Horseshoe Curve, Tehachapi, Chicago Racetrack, and more. Locomotive, the video companion to our best-selling special issue. And a special collection from documentary producer Rich Luckin. All these and more are available from our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com.
Good morning, Trains Nation. Jim Wrinn here, along with my colleague Brian Schmidt. We are here to recap the week's Newswire offerings. We've had 43 stories on the wire this week. What interested you, Brian?
I'm going to start off with steam engines. I never do that.
You never do that.
I never do that.
I'm always the one that hogs the steam engines.
But we have two 2700s to talk about.
Yep.
So the 27, so 16
Yep.
is in Kentucky.
Yep.
It's going to move for restoration down to Ravenna.
Yep.
Is that how you say it?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful
and we're
Kentucky.
going to have an F unit on it, right?
Clinchfield 800.
So applause to CSX for making that happen.
Very cool
and
thing.
helping out.
They're doing an echo toward history. It happened
Yeah.
back in 1979. That very same locomotive carried the very same steam engine to restoration then,
yeah.
and now they're redoing it all
There,
over
50
again.
years later, that's phenomenal. Yeah. And then 2719 is the other one I want to talk about. So that's the Sioux Line engine. Duluth has it, the museum in Duluth. The city of Eau Claire bought it back, but it sounds like it's going to stay put in Duluth because the city didn't get the responses it wanted for moving for the cost. So we have one 2700 is going to move and one is going to stay put. All the details are on Newswire.
Very well put. Meanwhile, down in Texas, UP has, well, they haven't said they've canceled it, but they're basically pressing the pause button on the Brazos Shard.
Right.
And it's going to be the biggest capital expenditure in company history. And now they've sort of adopted precision scheduled railroading. And now they say, well, maybe we don't need that yard just yet. We still want it, but we're going to take that money that we're going to spend on it this year and put it into extending sidings on the Sunset Route and making the double track longer on that railroad.
It's an investment in velocity rather than cars sitting still. So
it is.
In that sense, it does make sense.
So a different tact on that. Details in Newswire, but yeah, kind of a thing that everybody kind of anticipated and thought that might happen, and now it's happening.
And they've converted a couple other hump yards across the system.
Yep,
and
Pine Bluff
yeah.
and Hinkle, Oregon
Yep.
are both
Yep.
not doing what they were doing
before. You can get
before.
more details on the operation. Trains Newswire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a tower back in your old stomping ground in Ohio has closed.
Yeah, Toledo, Ohio, Hallett Tower. I did a feature on it a year ago. It was in the August 2018 issue, and just in the last week, the tower has closed as for local control. As you read in my story last year, the tower operators also served as dispatcher. So the dispatching function is going to continue for a few more months until they get that switched over. But all the local control, what the tower levers would have controlled, that's with Jacksonville on CSX now in their dispatching office. But you can get the detail on Trains Newswire and go pick up my story. I think I called it the Annie's Little Orphan because it was the last interlocking tower in the state. Yeah,
pretty cool thing. Of course, it's spring, and that means one thing: earnings.
Oh yeah.
And railroads are making some big bucks. CSX $3 billion, UP $5 billion, KCS several million. But everybody's making a lot of money. Those operation ratios are sinking. And yeah, lots of earnings stories this week and about how they're doing it, longer trains, all that sort of stuff. Be sure and check out Newswire for all of those tales this week.
Who wrote those stories?
I believe Mr. Bill Stevens took care of those stories.
Bill Stevens did. Bill was in the office this week, and Angela and I sat down with him for a two-part podcast. That'll be up on our webpage, probably on Newswire by the end of the day today, so have a look for that as well.
Nice, nice. And I think you've got a couple of things you wanted to observe about private cars and Amtrak.
Private cars, yeah. So, well, one is not as related to Amtrak as we thought it was, maybe. Chris Anderson did a look at the Huntington chapter finances, and when they said they were winding down their operations due to the Amtrak changes and not having excursions this year. So Chris did a little bit more digging. You can see what he found on Newswire. And Chase Gano looked at the ongoing construction at Washington Union Station and the limitations on private cars to be stored and switched at Washington. And the DC chapter of the InterHS is running into a little problem with that too. But the details again, Trains Newswire.
A lot of big changes there at Washington Union Station. So that's all we've got today. Be sure and check out Newswire. More stories coming along today. And we will be back next week with a lot more stories on Newswire. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.
Welcome back, readers. If you noticed this earlier, we're here to tell you about it now. Classic Trains is a new special issue. Trains Go to War. It's available through July. It's $13, $12.99, and 108 pages. It has a lot of great history. It goes back to World War I. Actually, it goes back to the Civil War, which is before the Classic Trains era coverage. But then it picks up with World War I, and it goes all the way through Vietnam, which is the core of Classic Trains.
It's a good issue. Be sure and pick it up.